trying to grow these forearms so that I can become a better arm wrestler. So, and the left one isn't quite as big, but the right one, it's not too bad. Now, enough flexing. Time to get to my reaction of my second arm wrestling tournament. Now, I did a 15-minute version of this video that was way too long, so I'm going to try to keep this around 5 minutes. So, this last tournament I went to, if you've seen my reaction to my first tournament, it was really positive. This one didn't quite go so well. This was a much smaller event. There wasn't anybody to compete in amateur class, so I had to compete at pro if I wanted to arm wrestle anyone. A lot of the people I arm wrestled with had lots of years of experience, so I was coming in as a definite underdog. And that's okay, because if you're competing against people who have a super high skill level, you're going to really see your shortcomings very fast, which isn't a whole lot of fun to have happen, but it's a necessary part of progress to become better at anything, is to be able to list your shortcomings. So the people that I faced in this arm wrestling tournament, they probably would have beat me under most circumstances just because they were very good arm wrestlers. There was one thing that did make this experience a bit frustrating. In my first match, I went up against a guy who had destroyed other people. He was very strong, and he arm wrestled in a way that was a little bit different. The way he would lock into the table was very, very different from anything I'd seen. And when we went into the setup, I got in my position of where I knew I was going to be able to fight the battle the best while being in a legal position, and he got in his best position. But his best position also required him to be slightly in, just ever so slightly. And I could see it from where I was at. The ref couldn't quite see it. So I was at kind of trying to move his hand so that it would be straight on the ready go, because when they say ready go, it's quick. And the ref was an acquaintance of his. They'd been to arm wrestling practices before, and the ref started jabbing his fingers into my shoulder and yelling at me to get my wrist straight when it was already straight. My arm was about like so, but everything was straight. And so I'm trying to get, into my position, and this guy is just ready to go. He's got a big hand, and I was ready, but the ref reaches over after jabbing his fingers into my delt over and over again and doing it harder and harder and harder and yelling at me, giving me a foul, grabs my fingertips and pries them open. Now, I don't know who picked him as ref, but he literally put his fingers on my fingertips and dragged them out, and then also moved my hand like so, as this guy's also grabbing and squeezing my hand and trying to get in the best position he can. And so my hand is here, my fingers are open, and my wrist's cracked. Ready to go. Boom. Nothing I could do to catch that. I was so angry. The ref completely just took away any chance that I would have even had to compete. And my opponent, and I don't blame my opponent for this at all, because arm wrestling is a very, very, very brutal sport in terms of aggressiveness and taking every advantage you can get, and even fighting dirty if you can get away with it. And so, frustrating for me to have the ref pull my hand open, crack my wrist, and yell, ready, go. He knew the other guy. He wanted to make sure his friend got a fair shot, and I was the outsider. It is what it is. That's just the way the sport can go sometimes. In my second match, I went against somebody who was also a very good arm wrestler, very strong, and we locked up. He didn't fight for an unfair grip at all. Went for more of just a straight up takeoff, and ref yells, ready to go. I had lost a lot of my steam just because I was so burned out from how mad I was at what had happened in the first round. But we yell, ready to go. He takes my hand. My arm is holding strong, but he eventually drags me down after about 15 seconds. And that's the way the matches went. So I didn't get a win this time, added to what I've done so far. Now, I was competing at the professional level for the first time because there was no amateurs for me to compete with within my weight range. I don't even know if there was any lighter than that were amateurs or heavier. Don't know. Anyways, the afterwards, I was pretty angry, but I wanted to learn from the two guys who had beat me because they were both people competing at the professional level and they were both very good. So I went to both of them and asked them, "Hey, what do I need to work on? What do you feel like was my biggest shortcoming in this event?" And the first guy that I went against, and I don't blame him at all for taking advantage of everything he possibly could to win the match. I think he won the division in the end. And what he told me, honestly, validated what I felt about what the ref had done. Because he said, yeah, because he said to me, as soon as I felt the ref crack your hand, I knew that I was going to have it, and there was nothing you could do to stop me. And I kind of just went, yep, I saw that too. That's just the nature of the game. And I wanted to improve. And then the thing is, if I could have gotten away with something, I would have gotten away with it. But I'm still a novice at knowing how to really get the best setup in that level of competition. But he talked to me about where my weak points were, what muscles I needed to work on, and also complimented where he noticed that I had a lot of strength. Because he took my hand and got it open and started taking it, but my arm didn't really open at all for him, and he literally just had to kind of drag my hand, and he told me, "You have an amazingly strong bicep, but you need to work on your ability to close your hand." All right, that's what I'm going to work on, and also as well, close my wrist, because while I can beat anybody for the most part that doesn't competitively arm wrestle, at least that I've met so far, there's a lot of people out there that probably would, just haven't met them, but when it comes to competing on that level, that's what I need to improve if I really want to hang with the people at that level of skill. Second guy, and that guy too, super friendly, super nice. I enjoyed talking to him afterwards. Very competitive, very excellent arm wrestler, and he probably would have beaten me even if I would have gotten a more fair setup. Just the nature of the game. Second guy I competed with was me and him went to a table, and me and him worked probably for 45 minutes together, and he talked to me about the same thing, closing my hand. I need to work on closing my hand and cranking my wrist. Same compliment to my bicep, that when he took my hand, my bicep didn't really have any give, and honestly, it was nice to come away with something, some positive feedback and not just getting smashed up on the table. But I learned a lot still. I still learned a lot because I feel like if you want to get good at anything, you got to expose yourself to the highest level of competition so that you can really see where you stack up and what you need to work on. Both those guys that beat me were super friendly afterwards. Talked to both of them for quite a while, and it was still a positive experience. I don't know if I'll ever go compete underneath that promotion again, just because the person that they picked to be the head ref didn't do a good job when it came to reffing my first match, and put me in a position of where I could not have won, not unless I was probably ranked in the world somewhere, but at that point things probably wouldn't have gotten to where they went to. But that is the nature of the game, is being able to get into that great starting position and not giving in one bit. I didn't want to foul out though because of this person's absence of judgment. It is what it is. Still learned a lot. I know what I need to work on, and I've been working on it ever since. And when the next tournament comes, I want to be more prepared. So even with the frustrations of this last event, and even the places where I feel like not everything was fair, I still learned a lot. And also the reality of the competition is, if somebody can beat you and not make it fair for you, they're going to do that. And it's up to you to fight your way into a position of where you can make it unfair for them. And that's the reality of almost any form of competition. Anything you can get away with, you try to get away with. And anything that you can do to make yourself the winner, you need to do. And in arm wrestling, that's just part of the game. You get into the setup in where it works for you, not for them. Train so that you can do so, and be prepared when you show up at the table. for all my shortcomings at this tournament, I am happy with what I learned. Frustrated still with how the referee reffed my match, but I still learned something, and I don't intend to stop competing for any reason. And if you're a person who's thinking about getting into arm wrestling, losing it's just like any other sport. If you want to get better, you're gonna lose. You're gonna face people who are gonna be better than you, and that's just the nature of the game. And that's what you got to go through if you want to get better. And me, I want to get better. And so now it's time to train, try to get better and better and better, stronger, stronger, stronger. And at the next competition, I want to show up ready. I don't know if I'm gonna. I probably will sign up for going into both amateur and pro, or maybe just amateur, so that I can continue to grow my skill. Just because, man, at the pro level, it was eye-opening. But anyways, that's all. I have a lot more that I would say, but we're already past 11 minutes, so I'm going to cut it off right there. And that's my reaction to my second tournament. Still going to keep going.